If we were to hold a contest for the most dishonest Democrat in Congress, it would be a close match, I think. It would be a close call. And you have Adam Schiff, who decided to use the power of Congress to take individuals, to subpoena individuals' phone records. Excellent piece. Schiff is watching you from my friend Kim Strassel over at the Wall Street Journal, in which he lays out essentially what I told you yesterday, which is that the problem with Congress starting to use subpoena power to go after what are thought of as the records you would use for a criminal law enforcement proceeding is there is no check on this whatsoever unless the private companies that are subpoenaed say, this seems strange to us, we'll see you in court. And even then there may not be. It depends on whatever the judge says. The answer right now to can Adam Schiff, without any fear of punishment, get the metadata of your phone records, whoever you are listening to this, is yes, he can. He can just say, oh, I think I have a confidential informant who tells me that, John so-and-so who's listening, well, not John Solomon, who he already showed his phone records, but John Doe listening to the show. Sorry, it rhymed. I know, there's no way around that. I think that he might have talked to some Ukrainians and yada, yada, I want their phone records. What he can just do it. And the speech and debate clause on the floor of Congress means that he can say whatever he wants and he won't get in trouble for it. So now they can just pull your Democrats have set up a new standard. And remember, look at what they're willing to do with Kavanaugh, or the Kavanaugh effect. They can do this now going forward as long as they have a majority and they want to use their committee in this way. They could, sure, subpoena, go for it. I mean, I don't even know if they need to use a committee. Probably just have one congressman who says, yeah, we're going to use our subpoena power to go after this. This is a very troubling thing, and that the media is silent on this is just further proof that they're a bunch of absolute frauds, just complete frauds. Hacks, clowns, the worst. No integrity, no honor, no sense that there's something more important than trying to just scrape an inch closer to, the ratings that say Fox News has. They'll do whatever they have to do and they'll say whatever they have to say. So you have Schiff, and then you have Pelosi as well, and she's sitting down with Jake Tapper, who, as those of you listening to the show know, I find to be among the most odious journalist frauds out there. And he sits down with Pelosi, and this is just stunning. I mean, she does this thing. She keeps doing this thing where she acts like she's really sad about this. Please, Brandon, play clip 4.
I believe that we should introduce articles of impeachment. This is a very sad day, I think, for our country. It's something that I would hope we could have avoided, but the president's actions made it necessary.
The president's actions made it necessary? They don't even know which actions they're talking. It changes any given day. They don't even know. But the president is the problem here. That's what they tell us. Oh boy. This is I think I might have mentioned this in the show before. I can't remember now. But, the worst, because I had 2 brothers and some cousins are all around the same age. And, the ultimate insult when you're having sort of brother fights. You an only child? No, you got siblings, right?
I am the oldest of 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you probably know what I'm talking. So the ultimate insult when you have one of your younger siblings is not to slap them with your hands. It's to take their own hands and hit them with them and say, stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself.
Yes.
This is what Nancy Pelosi is doing to Trump, basically. Oh, we don't want to do this. Why, Trump, are you making us impeach you? Stop hitting yourself in the face. That's what they're doing. It is wildly disingenuous, and they know it. They can't. They really just can't help themselves. Pelosi is somebody that I think when people look back at the history of what Nancy Pelosi is willing to do and say at different times, she really is the Democrat establishment. She's whatever has to be said at any moment, Nancy Pelosi's up for it. There's never a time where she's like, no, I'm too good a person for that. My honor is too important to me for that thing that I have to say or do, or that bill that I have to push or whatever. No, doesn't matter. Just the relentless, unremitting pursuit of power, lust of control of the American people's lives. That is what motivates Nancy Pelosi. So she says that it's sad, which no serious person believes that she finds this to be sad. And then she said this sitting down with fake Tapper. Play 5, please.
We're operating collectively. It's not going to be somebody put something on the table. We have our own, shall we say, communication with each other.
Okay.
So I'm not going to answer one, with all due respect, I'm not going to answer one charge. We're not writing the articles of impeachment here tonight.
And then she went on to say that she didn't even want any more. She didn't want any more questions about impeachment. I mean, she's the House majority. I'm sorry, she's the Speaker of the House, which is in and of itself appalling and should really make us all think that a lot of our fellow Americans are just not very bright. But she is the Speaker of the House, and here she is saying that, you know, she's not writing the articles of impeachment tonight. Guess what? They've already written them. I mean, they already know what's going to go in there. We've known all along. This is where you have the pivot back to the Russia collusion thing, which has been going on too. They've got to stack the deck. This Ukraine thing, which is really the Russia collusion playbook all over again. This Ukraine thing's not enough. So what are they doing? Oh, we got to, take this here and put that there and, a little razzle dazzle, and all of a sudden, poof, impeachment. It is absurd. Absurd, but this is where we are. Oh, here we go. This is Pelosi scolding Tapper. Tapper, of course, just has to take it because, he's a little Democrat. Tapper's a little Democrat lapdog. So he has to just take it. Play 9 here, please.
This has absolutely nothing to do with politics. It isn't about politics, partisanship, Democrats and Republicans. That's totally insignificant. It's about the Constitution of the United States, the oath of office we take to protect and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. It's about the president not honoring his oath of office.
It's not politics, she says, when talking about a clearly political proceeding by elected officials who are politicians. But it's not about politics. She will look you in the eye. This is what she's doing here. She will look America in the eyes and say something that is the exact opposite of reality. And she does it like some kind of sociopath who hopes that you won't pay any attention to the fact that what she's telling you is something that only a moron could believe. It's clearly not true, but she has a higher purpose in mind. The higher purpose is defeating Trump and putting the collectivist socialist Democrats back in power. That's it. It's not about politics. This would be like saying, oh yeah, we in the Freedom Hut, we don't, I'm not conservative. This is the dumbest thing I could say. Why would anyone listen to me after that? I mean, it's bizarre. Of course I am. Nancy Pelosi saying this is not about politics. This is a whopper of a lie. Of course it's about politics. Why? Oh, the pretense, because there are people who are so brainwashed and so deluded. There are libs who are so crazy, and I'm talking many millions of them, that they really think, yeah, the Constitution. This is about the Constitution. The people that say that have never read the Constitution. They don't care for the Constitution. They just know it's a big word that means something when Nancy Pelosi says it. Yeah, America, the Constitution. That's what Trump did. He did the thing against the thing that I haven't read and don't know anything about, and usually mock and ridicule for being not woke enough. I mean, the Constitution is not a woke enough document for the left. Now they love it. The Constitution is written by a bunch of old, rich, white, racist guys. That's what we're told. Right? That's what the Constitution is considered by the left until it's useful for, this is a cover story. That's all this is. This is the cover story for the impeachment. It's about something other than politics. Because the moment you recognize what this really is, which is just a political food fight with angry Democrats who just can't accept that Trump is presiding over an unbelievably strong economy and a time of peace in America, and things are going well, He is better at this than they are. He's better at governing. He's better at understanding how complex systems of American governance. I know people would laugh at that and say, oh, he doesn't read enough books and all such. Okay, well, he's better at doing the job, though, than all these Democrats who think they're so smart and are, clinking the champagne glasses together in Martha's Vineyard every summer and in Nantucket and in the Hamptons and out in Malibu and Beverly Hills. All theyese people who think that they're so wise, that they have such an understanding of the world and how it operates. This Trump figure comes along, and they promised us that he was such a buffoon that it would all collapse. He's better at this than they are. They can't handle it. Pelosi can't handle it. And that's where part of the hate comes from. Also, they're used to not being challenged in this way. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, do you think she gets challenged by journalists? Here's how she speaks to multimillionaire journalist fraud Jake Tapper. Play 13, please.
Would also have to testify. If there's some sort of deal cut, would you be willing to do so?
It has nothing to do. They should be testifying because they have been asked to testify by Congress. It isn't a deal. It's about a system of checks and balances. Can we not have any more questions about impeachment?
Can we not have any more questions about it? She's like, Jake, shut up. I don't want to talk about this right now because we didn't win this week and it didn't look good, all right? Of course, Jake's like, oh, okay. Whatever you say, Nancy. No more talk about impeachment this week, huh? Because it wasn't a strong week for the Democrats. This should surprise nobody. And yet here we are. They are still fixated on it. They will not change their minds. They will not move an inch from the ultimate purpose, and the ultimate purpose is the destruction of Donald Trump at any cost, of which, of course, CNN is completely on board for, and really all of the powerful Democrats in Congress, or all the Democrats in general, are on board for. They're going to do this. They're going to try. Won't work, though. The greatest part about all this, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, Trump is not only going to get through this impeachment thing, he's also going to win in 2020. And we will, I think, have to declare a few days that we'll just call the not tired of winning days in the Freedom Hub, where we just sort of like party and play music and hang out and drink margaritas, because the liberal tears will be the most delicious things we have ever tasted.
I like Nancy Pelosi as a person, but this process has been hijacked. I think the most radical people in the country are driving the impeachment process, and either she gets on the train or she's going to get run over by it.
The impeachment process is going to keep on going. This train has left the station. It's not going to stop. Give us his assessment where it's all going. We're joined by my buddy Will Chamberlain. He is editor-in-chief of Human Events, humanevents.com, for all of their latest. He's down in D.C. in the swamp, so you can bring us a swamp-side view of what's going on here. Will, good to have you.
Good to be with you, Buck, as always.
All right, man, what do you think about this week? I mean, Pelosi's running around saying that she's really sad that this is happening, that it's not political. I just want to meet the person who believes any of this, who thinks that she's not being just completely and utterly ridiculous and disingenuous.
Well, I mean, I think she's sad, but not for the reasons she said. I mean, she's not sad that she's impeaching the president. She's sad that it's not going very well. I mean, we saw yesterday, I think a New Jersey congressman said that he will not vote for impeachment. The fact that that's already happening, I see that as the dam breaking. I think a lot of Democrats in districts that Trump won, and there are something like 30 or 40 of those, are really not liking the idea of going forward with impeachment. And in general, I just think it was a really bad week for the Democrats. I think the hearing in the Judiciary Committee went terribly. There's a reason they weren't sharing any clips of it, because they knew that they looked terrible. I mean, these are, it was 3 liberal law professors who looked exactly like everyone that Trump supporters elected Donald Trump to fight against. And then Jonathan Turley looking reasonable. I mean, I think they have to go forward because they're being pressed by their base and they don't want to deal with the Twitter fallout of not going forward with impeachment. But I don't think Nancy Pelosi's happy about the way things are going at all.
Adam Schiff's impeachment report exonerates President Trump. That is your main piece right now up on humanevents.com.
Yeah.
Tell me how.
Well, for all the talk of quid pro quo and whether or not President Trump actually made explicit demands of Zelensky, there's been a complete lack of discussion about what President Trump's intent was in all his dealings with Ukraine. And everybody just asserts without evidence, to use a cliche term, that he's doing it in his personal interest. Well, it looks like Adam Schiff's report contains a conclusion, in a portion where he talks about how President Trump developed a negative view of Ukraine after conversations with Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, Giuliani, and others, and that's what led him to take a more adversarial stance. Well, if that's true, then he's acting in what he saw as the interests of the United States when he took a more adversarial posture towards Ukraine. And therefore, there's no corruption, there's no abuse of trust or abuse of power, because from the president's perspective, he saw what he was doing as in the national interest. That should be the end of the case for an impeachable offense. And it's bizarre that, Adam Schiff and the Democrats would make this argument, would talk about the smear campaign and how people deceived President Trump into disliking Ukraine, because if what they are saying is true, it exonerates him of an impeachable offense.
You also have in here, Senate Republicans are AWOL in the oversight war. I've been discussing this in the show, and I worry that Senate Republicans are going to fall back on we're the Senate. We cool the passions of the House or whatever. No, right. We're in a street fight, Mitch McConnell. I think someone needs to get him the memo.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it, in a world where the House and Senate are held by different parties, the legislative branch doesn't really legislate. I mean, small things where there's complete bipartisan consensus, sure. But in general, I mean, you're not going to see a lot of legislation. And so what you end up seeing is instead a kind of abuse of oversight power. I mean, the best example of that is Adam Schiff releasing phone records of Devin Nunes and others in his report. I mean, there's a way you can use the power of oversight to use subpoenas to harass people. You can make it very hard for the government to actually do things. You can paralyze the executive branch with subpoenas, and you can use the subpoenas to humiliate people by publishing the results of those records. So they aren't actually doing oversight in order to modify legislation. That's BS. They really are trying to essentially encroach on executive branch power, encroach on the executive branch's prosecutorial power under the pretext of oversight. And my point is that, that sucks, but Senate Republicans need to be willing to fight dirty if the Democrats are going to do that too. So we should be using subpoenas. We should be playing the oversight game too. If Democrats want to be issuing releasing the phone records of Devin Nunes, then Senate Republicans should be subpoenaing Adam Schiff's phone records.
I've been saying that all week. Totally agree with you. I want to see if, I don't know, maybe somebody reported as the whistleblower and Adam Schiff or his office were having some chats. I think we should know about that before.
Right. And I mean, again, like the whistleblower, it's another example of this weird, almost gaslighting. It's like no one can say the name of the whistleblower. That's wrong.
Yeah. Eric Sharamella is reported as a whistleblower, everybody. How many times we said it on the show? It is absolutely obscene that the media goes along with this charade and won't say it.
Right. I mean, and here's the thing. It's not Adam Schiff. I mean, there's only one person who's legally bound not to identify the whistleblower. That's the IG of the intelligence community, right? That's the person who the whistleblower report goes to and under law is required not to disclose their name. That's the only person that's bound in this way. And the reason people know it's Eric Ciaramella is because of disclosures that were likely made by Ciaramella or his team about who the whistleblower was to the New York Times when they assumed he was going to go testify. I mean, so yeah, we all figured out who it was. You revealed it, guys. You didn't, whatever confidentiality you were trying to keep, you didn't do a good job. Now that's public information, but apparently everybody's still going along with this notion that no one can say the whistleblower's name, even though that's not the law.
Hold on for 1 sec. We got to come back with a little more. All right, everybody, we're continuing our conversation with my friend from Human Events, where he's editor-in-chief, Will Chamberlain. Well, let's talk a little about the Democrats. First of all, I mean, how much would we have to pay you to have you and Joe Biden get into a push-up contest?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Joe Biden's always open to campaign donations, right? Or at least his son is.
That's true. I was going to say, I think it's just going to take a nice fat check to Hunter Biden, and he'll probably show up and do a push-up contest tomorrow.
Right. Like, I mean, there are candidates who I would say that would never indulge that, but Joe Biden's not one of them. The man does like his money and his influence. I don't know. I mean, Joe Biden's clearly out of it. It's bizarre that.
How is he still? But I don't mean to cut you off. But how is he still the front runner? I sit here.
I mean,
Tucker and I have had the same line on this. I just found this out. He's been saying what I've been saying, which is like, I don't care what the polls say. There's just no way this guy's going to win the Democratic nomination. But I'm actually starting to feel like maybe I'm missing something here because his support doesn't budge.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's two things. One, name recognition is really powerful at the end of the day. I mean, everybody knew who Donald Trump was, right? So it's a very powerful force, and everybody knows. Most people know Joe Biden. He was the vice president for 8 years. And then I think the second thing is a very, very strong loyalty from the Black community, right? The African American community, which sees him as the person who supported and stood by Obama for 8 years of the Obama presidency. And I think, those two things explain this sort of robust strength. So even though he literally is senile, I mean, he's just not fully there. It's obvious. He yells at the TV screen like he can't fully hear everybody. It's just, I don't know. It's amazing how robust it is, despite his obvious flaws and his complete unfitness to be president at this point.
Well, isn't it amazing that we've had all these different cycles? Because it goes and it comes, of the media saying that Trump, they were fat shaming him for a while. They say that he's too obese to be president, so there's a health risk there. They say that he's crazy. I've seen a number of psychiatrists, psychologists go on TV and say that Trump, is not of sound mind, and so he should be removed. And you keep hearing this. Well, the good news for us is that they've opened the door very wide for a robust conversation about how Joe Biden, he doesn't look like he's up for this at all.
I mean, I'm not sure about that, Buck. Like, there's a very clear rule is that you're not allowed to talk about the potential health problems of Democrats, right? That's a very clear rule.
It was clear on the. I know you're kidding, but it was clear on the Hillary. I mean, the Hillary campaign for sure. She flopped in the back of a bus. Everybody's like, "How dare they bring that up?"
Right. That's a conspiracy theory. That's another one of my favorite pejoratives. A credible allegation is one. It's like you need to just like translate this newspeak. A credible allegation is one that there's no supporting evidence of for the Democrats, and a conspiracy theory only as phrased by like a Democratic presidential campaign. A conspiracy theory is something that there's video evidence of, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I remember that with the Hillary thing, and I think we're going to see another version of that. I mean, do you think that if someone's going to break Biden's Maginot Line of support here, who do you think it would be? I mean, who's your number two?
I think Buttigieg. I mean, it looks like he's going to win Iowa. And I mean, ultimately, I think that he's a candidate who I think is actually could pose problems for Trump. And the reason I say that is because he contrasts with Trump. He's this much younger guy. He's extremely, extremely articulate and well-spoken on his feet. And so that, compare that to a Biden who is not well-spoken at all, who is older than Trump. Like, it's a terrible contrast. And so I think, there's a reason that, Buttigieg's numbers have been going up as Biden's have been going down in those first few states. And I think it's because, like, as people see more of Buttigieg, they're like, oh, God, this guy's clearly more competent than this man who clearly should be just hanging out with his grandchildren at this point.
Interesting. We had on yesterday, I don't know if you know Chadwick Moore, but he's a friend of mine here in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that the LGBT community doesn't really support Buttigieg, which is, I think, a surprise to a lot of folks. And obviously the black community also does not support Buttigieg. His numbers, the black community, are terrible. So you're right about him having some strength in the Midwest, and people do. Where is he in Iowa right now in the polls? He's up there.
I think he's leading.
I think he might be too. Yeah. Yeah. Well, but he's got those other hurdles to get over. We'll see. What's on tap for Chamberlain? Over the weekend, man. How does Will Chamberlain rock out at this great time for America?
Oh man, I mean, I might be on Twitter or something. I might really, really run wild. I had a very lovely trip this weekend to the Blue Ridge Mountains for Thanksgiving. So I'm back in town, and I'm going to probably play it a little quiet this weekend.
Where are you on turkey? Do you eat turkey other than on Thanksgiving? Because producer Brandon, like a barbarian, thinks that turkey is a year-round meat.
No, I mean, my sister, who is a wonderful cook, refuses to make turkey for Thanksgiving. She's just like, no, roast chicken, it's better. We're eating roast chicken.
Oh, you're a roast chicken on Thanksgiving family. Wow, look at you breaking
words. Actually, she just insisted. Because she's this foodie nut, and she's like, no one likes turkey. Doesn't taste good. Roast chicken is strictly better. We're having roast chicken. I'm like, okay, and I
think you can't fight that. You can't fight that at all.
Right.
All right, man. Well, have a great one, Will. Keep doing the stuff over at Human Events. Will is editor-in-chief over there, folks. HumanEvents.com for his latest. Mr. Chamberlain, you take care.
Yeah, thank you very much, Buck.
The mark of an intelligent, competent person is when they make a mistake, they have the guts to stand up and say, I made a mistake, I'm sorry.
We don't question your belief that you made a mistake. I think the question is the timing that you realize you made the mistake.
Well, nobody asked me about it until I started running for president, so come on.
Are you saying to people that you realize you had made a mistake before, but you just didn't mention it until now?
I think we were overzealous at the time to do it. Our intent was to do anything we could to stop the carnage, the murder rate. And what was surprising is when we stopped doing it a little bit, we thought crime would go up. It didn't. It went down. You know, it should have, would have, and could have. I can't help that. But in looking back, made a mistake. I'm sorry. I apologize. Let's go fight the NRA and find other ways to stop the murders and incarceration. Those are things that I'm committed to do. And the more I do that, the better off everybody is.
So Mayor Bloomberg here, who is running for president and does have some support because he's got billions and billions of dollars, Mayor Bloomberg was, for a very liberal, very left-wing city here in New York, was a good mayor. He's terrible at national policy, but he was a pretty good mayor. I can't say otherwise. The city was well-run. It was cleaner than it had been, safer than it had been. He was doing a good job as an administrator. The guy had built and run a very large company with thousands, I think tens of thousands now, or at least I think it's 14 or 15,000 Bloomberg employees around the world. Very large company. So, the guy's not dumb. He's a smart dude, for sure. We need to be honest about, who on the left and who among the Democrats have a lot of brain power. He's a smart guy. He's just got bad judgment about things and doesn't know what he doesn't know, which is a common problem among a lot of very powerful, very wealthy Democrats. And to be fair, among a lot of people who are just wealthy and powerful in general. But here he's getting some heat for stop and frisk, which I remember was a very contentious argument in New York City at the time. And I spent some time as a counterterrorism analyst at the NYPD's Intel Division, and there was a lot of talk about it back then, if memory serves. And here's the problem. I mean, stop and frisk seemed like an idea that law enforcement liked it. Law enforcement always likes to have additional tools to do their job. Doesn't make them bad guys and gals. It just means that they want more stuff, whether it's actual things or it's more ability and more tactics to use to keep people safe. It is up to us. It is up to the civilian oversight and the elected leaders of any given community to set those parameters. All right. So, you talk to a lot of good people in law enforcement. You say, hey, I mean, do you guys think that you should just be able to – this was true for a while. It used to be the case that if emails were older than 90 days – and people still are shocked when they find this out. If email was older than 90 days, you didn't need probable cause. You only needed a reasonable suspicion, a much lower threshold. So basically, you could get if you wanted to see somebody's emails from 6 months ago and you were in law enforcement, it's a really easy thing to do and very unlikely you're going to be told now. They had to change that. Actually, Congress, I think, passed a law to address that because that was just made, that really kind of came from an era when people were sending maybe like 5 emails a day or 5 emails a month. And, they didn't realize that everyone's lives now are encapsulated in their emails. I mean, they've just everything they're doing, their transactions, their banking, their doctors, everything's done over email. But law enforcement, I remember at the time, the guys were like, no, but we like it that way because they want to be able to do the job. They don't think, well, people will abuse this. They don't think that, the Adam Schiffs of the world will have that power. Remember, that guy was a federal prosecutor, Schiff. That should be terrifying to everybody. They think, the good guys like me will just be able to stop the bad guys with that. That was the way they also thought of many of the cops that I spoke to, the thought of stop and frisk. And it turns out that maybe you could argue, and I'm sure there'd be some people who come on the show who would, that this cause and effect is not as direct. I didn't mean for that to rhyme either. I don't know what's going on today. It's just one of those days, man. The cat in the hat, green eggs and ham, stuff like that. I didn't even try to do that time either. But the truth here is that I don't know what's going on. Buck's got a little bit of the sillies today. The truth is that when they actually looked at the crime numbers after they got rid of stop and frisk, crime kept going down. I would like to dive into a bit more of what I think is happening in some of these cities where the quality of life crimes are rising, and they rise to a point where it is unavoidable, it is unforgettable that, undeniable. I don't know, unforgettable. That's what, undeniable that there's a surge in quality of life crimes. But the truth is, stop and frisk went away and crime went down, and you got to look at that and say, okay, maybe. And I thought that stop and frisk was good. All it allowed was for, if law enforcement, if cops, let's say, if cops thought, NYPD thought that somebody, might pose a public safety risk, they could stop people on the street and just ask to pat them down, essentially. And, people, this was in primarily minority communities in the city, and people objected to it, and it became a big rallying cry that we should get rid of this. They got rid of it, and the murder rate didn't skyrocket, and terrible things didn't happen. Maybe people want to argue, and I'm open to this argument, and they might want to argue that you have to give it more time and that these things build. But in the short term, we got to look at the facts as what they are. I just find this so interesting because here's Bloomberg, who was an excellent mayor, being told to bend the knee and say, I'm sorry, and really kind of beg forgiveness for the whole stop and frisk policy because he was the mayor of New York, the NYPD, when this was happening. And his first move is, let's go after the NRA. I got an idea. Let's go after the NRA. This didn't work for Weinstein. It didn't work for somebody else tried this pretty recently. I'm just going to devote myself to going after the National Rifle Association. I mean, the left loves these boogeymen that are out there, like the NRA and the Koch brothers, and they can just point to this. It used to be Halliburton. Remember that? If you were a leftist, all you do is be like, Halliburton. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, Halliburton. They're watching you. No, Adam Schiff is watching you. Halliburton's not watching you, but he's having to try to beg forgiveness from the left, and they don't really care that he was a good mayor. That's what I find so interesting. The stuff that he did as a mayor that was reality-based, that's not viewed as a huge win on the left. What they care about is how much he wants to tackle climate change, how much gun control he wants to push. I mean, those left-wing, ideologically deeply divided issues, that's what he's going to have to do. So but what I'm saying is all the good stuff that Bloomberg did is either going to be forgotten, minimized, or repudiated, and now you're just going to see the distillation of Bloomberg, the candidate, into left-wing Ocasio-Cortez style lunacy, and that's what they're going to force him to do, because otherwise he's not going to have a very long candidacy. That much is for sure. And then we had our friend just now telling us about Buttigieg. Here he is being Buttigieg, talking about how he's the guy who can take us into the next era. Play 12.
I want to begin by asking you to picture, as specifically as you can, a day that is going to come in the not-too-distant future, one way or the other, in our country. And it's the day that the sun comes up over our country, and Donald Trump is no longer the President of the United States. Just want to ask you to build that image. But the reason I'm asking you to picture that day is not only to remind us that we got something to look forward to, but also to ask you to think about what America is going to need on that day, what we're going to require of our next president. Because by definition, this election is a competition not only for who can bring an end to the Trump era, but who can lead us into the era that must come next.
I just don't think he's a compelling guy. I don't see it. I don't hear it. I don't know. I'm not. And by the way, and I'm trying to say, picking among Democrats, I think he's boring. I think that he's a guy of very. There's no particular vision. There's no why, and this is this is why we played that clip for you. The sun comes up and Trump is no longer president. How does that benefit the people that are listening to this? Other than they have, we've been pushed into this tribalism: my side, your side, my team, your team, left, right, Republican, Democrat. Okay, so the Democrats will be happy about that, but what exactly does Mayor Pete say he's going to do that's going to make the country better? How will they make the country better? Medicare for all is a myth. It's a joke. It's never going to, even if a Democrat wins, I do not think it'll happen because I do not think they'll be able to get the Congress to go along with it. So what else do they offer up? What is the compelling reason to vote, to protect a woman's right to a taxpayer-funded abortion? I mean, that's one thing. What are the things that Democrats offer that they believe compel people to vote for them? It's not an impressive list. I've got to tell you, there's not a lot of stuff there. It's just not Trump. That's what he's telling you. They'll wake up and Trump won't be president, and that's supposed to make people feel good. And it just makes me sad because here I am looking at data, numbers, reality for what's going on in the Trump presidency, and what do we have on the other side? Oh, well, at least Trump won't be president. So then what? People won't be subjected to his salty tweets? What is so terrible about a Trump presidency? They've told us about all these things. We were going to be pushed into fascism. There's going to be nuclear war. We're going to have all kinds of catastrophe. None of that has happened. In fact, the opposite of that has happened. And I mean, I really think that it would be to the great discredit of the American voter if we're heading into an election and the country feels then like it does now, which is an if, things can happen. But if we had an election, the country feels then like it does now, and we don't vote for the person that's presiding over this America, do you want to go back to the America that was our best days are behind us? No, I don't think so. Our best economic days are behind us? Nope.